Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This is the 14th part of What If Deku Was a Magical Girl Mascot, Quirk, Magical Girl Mascot. The author of this great fanfic is Emma. I believe links to them and original story in the description. Chapter 14, The First Two Matches. Each of the classes were given their own box to view the matches from. There were only 2 students missing from Class 1A's box as the matches were soon to be given. Those being Todoroki and Izuku. Should you be getting ready for your match, Tsu? Asked Ochako. I don't if there's much I can do against him. Admitted Tsuyu. It's not that he's one of the strongest in class, is it? Asked Katsuki. No, said Tsuyu. Wait, you have the abilities of a frog, correct? Asked Ida, realizing it. What? Asked Ochako. I don't do good with the cold. She explained to Ochako. Oh, said Ochako. The powers help with the drawback. Said Katsuki, it might not be that bad. Really? Asked Tsuyu. Yeah, I don't get as nauseous. Said Ochako. And I don't get as dehydrated. Said Katsuki. Wait, one of your drawbacks is that you get dehydrated. Said Ochako, trying not to smile. I have never passed out from dehydration. Said Katsuki, trying not to smirk. What? Asked Ida. Auntie passed out from dehydration from crying too much, that Wymie and Deku weren't at lunch. Katsuki whispered to Ida. Is she alright? Asked Ida, become concerned. She's fine, it's not the first time it happened. Said Katsuki. Ida's sweat dropped when Katsuki said that. But seriously, frog face. Just use your wand on him and hope for the best. Said Katsuki. That doesn't help. Said Tsuyu with a sweat drop. Katsuki just shrugged. All right. Now it's time for the first match in the final event of the sports festival. Yelled Present Mike. The crowd cheered in excitement. First off, we have the multi-quirk cinnamon bun of Class 1A Izuku Midoriya against the dark horse of General Studies Hitoshi Shinso. Called out Present Mike. Izuku looked at Shinso nervously when Present Mike explained the rules. Defeat would occur with one of 3 things: the competitor ends up out of bounds, the competitor is unable to continue, or the competitor says uncle. Also, Cementos was acting as a secondary referee to make sure that no one uses lethal attacks, which was against the rules. All right. Now that's out of the way. Let's get started. Yelled Present Mike. Izuku activated Katsuki's quirk. You know, it's really pathetic that Monkey dropped out of the coemption. Said Shinso with a smirk. He probably just lacked what it took to continue on. Don't you dare say that about. Said Izuku. But he couldn't even finish his sentence as suddenly he froze. Shinso smirked. In the Class 1A box, Ojiro suddenly no. I warned him. What's going on? Asked Ochako. It's his quirk. Said Ojiro. What the fuck is his quirk? Asked Katsuki. Flashback. In the room that was waiting room for competitors, Izuku was nervous after Ojiro was telling him what happened. So if I talk back to him? Said Izuku. Ojiro nodded. He asked me something and after that I don't remember anything. Said Ojiro. Is there any way to get out of it? Asked Izuku. At the end of the cavalry battle, I bumped into someone. Explained Ojiro. That shock must have been the thing to snap me out of it. Izuku sighed. End of flashback. On the battlefield, Izuku still stood there in a trance. Now be a good little hero and walk out of bounds. Said Shinso. Izuku turned around and walked slowly towards the boundary. It's like my head is filled with static. Thought Izuku, I can't move. I should have kept my mouth shut. I'm sorry everyone. In the faculty box. Izuku, no. Cried Inko as tears streamed down her eyes. In Class 1A's box. What the fuck, Deku? Yelled Katsuki. Deku, said Ochako. Please don't lose, said Tsuyu. That was when their gems all began to glow brightly. What's going on? Asked Siro. In the faculty box, they also saw the glow. On the battlefield, Izuku suddenly heard all of their voices and he stopped as his eyes widened. Shinso was confused when he stopped. What? He said. That was when Izuku was engulfed by his trademark puff of smoke and turned into his animal form. What? Asked Shinso again, even more confused. Izuku, who thankfully was still unbound, turned around. Wait, you're the stuffed toy? Asked Shinso, surprised. Izuku turned back human and nodded, figuring that would be a good way to respond without vocalizing it. Shinso just stared at Izuku, still extremely confused. How did you even get into the hero course? He asked in a combination of bafflement and trying to get Izuku to fall for it again. Izuku didn't answer, instead ran towards him, and once again activated Katsuki Quirk. He let loose a blast. I can't even tell what your quirk is, but I bet you didn't have to go through people telling you that you can't be a hero. That you're better suited to be a villain, said Shinso as he got up. Izuku knew he had to switch to plan B. He once again ran toward Shinso. I don't know how your quirk works, but I'm sure everyone's always told you could be a hero, yelled Shinso. He grabbed Izuku and punched him. However, Izuku just grabbed him right back. That was when suddenly Shinso felt himself floating as Izuku had switched to Ochiko's quirk. Izuku proceeded to throw him, to the extent he was out of bounds. Hitoshi Shinso is out of bounds. Izuku Midoriya is the winner. Called out Midnight. Release. Called out Izuku, putting Shinso back on the ground. He decided to switch to his animal form, knowing that would be the best way to approach him at the moment. You're wrong, only a few people ever said I could be a hero, said Izuku. Shinso looked at him. Is that your default form? Asked Shinso. It is, said Izuku. What? Said Shinso. My quirk is really weird, said Izuku. Because of that, growing up I was mocked for wanting to be a hero. My quirk allows me to make bonds with people, and well, I'd go into more details. But you'll see it later, and when I make a bond, one get a permanent copy of their quirk and I get more time as a human, but there are side effects. I can't make a bond with a male or something will happen to them. Also, growing up my best friend was often mocked and bullied. She claims it didn't get to her, but I knew it did. You think I'd believe that? Asked Shinso. Yeah, said Izuku. Izuku, that was when he got caught up in the brainwashing. But Shinso quickly let him go. I was just kidding, even I compared you to a stuffed toy, said Shinso. Yeah, said Izuku. Though the more I look at you, the more I think you look like a magical girl mascot, muttered Shinso. Izuku started laughing nervously. Wait, said Shinso, your quirk turns you into a magical girl mascot? Izuku nodded. Shinso just stared at Izuku, processing everything. A magical girl mascot was in the hero course. Midoriya. Shinso, please leave the battlefield and take your conversation elsewhere if you have to, muttered Aizawa. Izuku turned back human, who shrugged. It was clear that the conversation was over. Shinso headed towards the exit. Hey Shinso, called out a voice. He looked up and saw many of classmates. Good job, called out one of them. You really showed them, called out another one. Shinso, please leave, muttered Aizawa. Back in the Class 1A box, Tsuyu sighed. Good luck, said Ochako nervously. Yeah, hopefully he won't kick your ass too badly, said Katsuki. Seriously, Katsuki, said Tsuyu. Look, Icy Hot hates Deku's quirk, so be really careful, alright, said Katsuki quietly. Tsuyu's eyes widened when he said that. Only her, Ida, Achiko and Jiro, due to her quirk, heard what she said. Tsuyu nodded as she left. A few minutes later, Izuku finally arrived. Ojiro gave Izuku a high five, then headed to where his friends were sitting. "Hey," said Izuku. "Good job," said Achiko. Izuku nodded. "By the way, Deku, do you know why our gems were glowing?" asked Katsuki. "Oh, that happened," said Izuku. "I guess it's a new connection, because I was able to snap out of it when I heard your voices, including Sue and Mom's." "Really?" said Achiko. "Damn magical girl logic," muttered Katsuki as Izuku turned to Animal and jumped to Katsuki's shoulder. "Is it true what Bakugo said, that Todoroki doesn't like your quirk?" asked Ida. "He does seem to hate it, but it's based on a misunderstanding," said Izuku. "Do you plan to clear it up?" asked Ida. "After the sports festival," said Izuku. "Do you know why?" asked Achiko. Said Izuku, "I can't say. The reason is really fucked up. So don't ask about it," muttered Katsuki. Achiko and Ida looked at each other concerned. However, soon enough the match announcement had begun. First off, we have the Ice Prince of Class 1A Shoto Todoroki against the Fantastic Frog Girl, also of Class 1A Tsuyu Ajui. Called out present. Mike. Tsuyu looked at Todoroki. She was still nervous but knew that Katsuki's plan of transforming and using her wand might be the best tactic. And begin. Called out Midnight. In less than a second Tsuyu grabbed her necklace and transformed. Todoroki glared harshly at her and sent a wave of ice at her. For those wondering, that magical transformation has nothing to do with her quirk, said present Mike. One of her classmates, who I'm not at liberty to say, has a quirk that lets him form bonds with people. The bond is symbiotic. What they get is a special set of armor that enhances their quirks and a special weapon that has a special enhanced aspect of their quirk, explained Aizawa. And yes, it does take the form of magical girl powers if you haven't noticed, explained present Mike. I was hoping to avoid that, muttered Aizawa. In the Class 1 seed box, Shinso blinked. I knew he couldn't have been joking, but, seeing it, muttered Shinso with eye twitching. In the Class 1B box, Monoma was trying not to freak out. He stuck his over the wall to Class 1A's. I thought you were trying to mess with me, he yelled. The rest of the class stared at him. Why would I mess with you about my quirk? Asked Izuku. That was when suddenly Monoma slumped over. Sorry about him, said a girl from the class with red hair put into a side ponytail. Her name was Atsuka Kendo. On the bright side, you won't be known as the stuffed animal anymore, but the magical girl mascot, said Sato. I know, sighed Izuku. Back on the battlefield, Tsuyu jumped out of the way. During the 2 weeks she learned more about the poisonous mucus she created from the wand. She could control its potency and effects. It was actually sending samples to Recovery Girl to examine it. But still, if she managed to hit Todoroki with it, he would be paralyzed and then she would win. But she knew it was a big if. But still she had to try. She shot the mucus from her wand. However, Shoto just sent out a huge glacier engulfing her, most of the battlefield and a good chunk of the stadium. Just about everyone in the stadium gaped as what happened. Thankfully the cold wasn't causing Tsuyu that many problems. She was still feeling a bit lethargic, but it wasn't as bad. Ajui, can you move? Asked Midnight. No, I can't, muttered Tsuyu. Ajui is unable to move. Todoroki wins the match, called out Midnight. Todoroki moved to melt the ice. He looked at Tsuyu, who looked at him back. Do you regret bonding with Midoriya? He asked her as he melted the ice. Why would I regret it? Asked Tsuyu. Todoroki gritted his teeth. In Class 1A's box, Izuku stood there, unsure how to respond to the fight. After all, what happened was crazy. But also he knew why Todoroki didn't like his quirk. He wasn't sure how the next fight was going to go. But he had some ideas how he was going to handle it. However, there were still 6 matches before his fight with Todoroki, including the match between Katsuki and Achiko. And of course, considering what Katsuki said about how she would be using her transformation during the fight, it would prove to an interesting. That will be it for this part. I hope everyone enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and comment if you want part 15. If you want to hear more from me, subscribe. I hope to see you all in the next one.